Yo, what's up?
Hey dude, look at this weird picture I found.
What is it? Dude. What the fuck? SCP Containment Breach is an okay game. It is roughly what I was going to title this video when I decided to make it. Having 40 hours in the Steam version of the game and probably another 20 or so in the original release, I thought I had my opinion pretty set. Containment Breach is an okay game, it's really buggy and the mechanics can be pretty bullshit, but it is really scary and the atmosphere is great. But while writing this, I realized the game is much better than I gave it credit for. So I deleted that script and decided to write a more positive review of the game.
What are you, stupid or something? I said step out of the cell. If you don't step out of the cell, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Hello everybody, my name is Ken, and today I'm going to be reviewing SCP Containment Breach. If you're watching this, then you probably know the basics, but for those who don't, I'll give you a quick rundown of the history of Containment Breach. Inspired by popular indie horror games at the time like Amnesia: The Dark Descent,
For this one. Ah! No, senoritas everywhere, oh my god.
and Slenderman, or the similar SCP-087, SCP Containment Breach was developed by one Hunis Regalis Rakonen, I probably butchered that, who wanted to make a game that didn't rely heavily on jump scares, instead focusing more on making an impressive and dark atmosphere, creating more tension than, say, a Freddy Fazbear jump scare.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play.
The first night usually isn't that bad.
What the fuck?
The game was based off the SCP Wiki, which is a user-created collaborative writing universe, where a user is able to create an SCP, Secure, Contain, Protect, which is usually a scary monster or item with a special number designation like 087. To make the game, Regalis used a now very old Blitz 3D engine, which is based on the basic coding language. Despite how archaic this engine was, Regalis said he was too lazy to start learning some other language or engine, so he just kept with that. He would later express that this definitely led to some limitations regarding graphical and mechanical complexity, but he was happy with the game regardless. After working on it for a few months, Regalis would release the very first version of SCP Containment Breach in April of 2012. With this initial release, there was no ending. Your only objective was to survive and discover everything in the facility. Throughout the next 6 years, the game would slowly receive full-feature updates with new SCPs, rooms, items, and a total of 4 endings. For the purpose of this video not being 38 hours long, I'm not going to talk about the entire update history of the game. Instead, I'm just going to be discussing the most recent update, version 1.3.11. You awaken in a small room. A blinding light beams down, searing your eyes. Confused, you pick up a piece of paper on a nearby shelf. SCP, Secure, Contain, Protect. Orientation leaflet 1 month working period. Subject D9341. A knock at the door interrupts your reading. Following the guards down the hallways, you're stricken with a deep unease. Something feels off about this place, but you can't quite put your finger on it. As you reach your destination, the guard hands you a piece of paper.
Look, buddy, I don't have all day. I'm trying to be polite about this. By the way,
You only have time to glance at it before being called into the adjacent room.
don't try it.
The other 2 guys look just as worried as yourself. Entering the chamber, you face a weird-looking statue. You barely have time to comprehend this creature before... The mechanics of Containment Breach have always been simple. Creep around the abandoned hallways of this strange facility whilst avoiding the many horrors that reside within. There are tools to help you along your journey, but generally, most of your playtime is going to be spent running, blinking, and opening lots of doors. The main enemy of the game is SCP-173, the first SCP ever created. Here's a brief excerpt from his wiki entry. Origin is as of yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within a direct line of sight. This would inspire the now iconic blinking mechanic where, if you're in the same room as 173 and you blink, he'll quickly teleport next to you and snap your. When asked about his design philosophy regarding scaring the player, Regalis said, "I think one of the things that makes Containment Breach so scary is that the player is almost never safe, and even the slightest slip can end the game. I've also spent a lot of time looking for and making the sounds and music clips for the game. Atmosphere is one of the key elements of a good horror game, and a well-made soundscape adds a lot to that atmosphere." Expanding a bit on his point about atmosphere, I think this is what the game does best, and it's clear his attention to the soundscape and ambience was well placed. A lot of the game is eerily quiet, which makes the occasional far-off scream or scrape of concrete that much more impactful, especially when you know 173 is near. The music, despite its sparsity, is used very effectively. In the opening sequence when Kevin MacLeod's Blue Feather is quietly playing as you contemplate your strange situation, it gives you a tense feeling of anticipation and dread, as the sterile but dusty white walls haven't yet revealed the monsters that hide within, yet you know something terrible is about to happen. One of the most frightening experiences you can probably have in any game is when whatever ambience track is playing abruptly stops, and you begin to hear the slimy sound of SCP-106, the old man, rise up from beneath your feet. The sound cue is easily missable. However, when you hear the iconic, you'll realize, probably too late, that SCP-106 is right behind you. This music track is genuinely terrifying. It has no intro or ending, it just starts then loops over and over and over until you successfully evade 106 while you fall victim to his fucking pedophile touch, sending you to his pocket dimension to rot forever. The visuals of the game are another surprisingly effective aspect. Due to the limitations of the Blitz 3D engine and the fact that this is an indie game made by one guy, the graphics were never going to be anything impressive, but with what Regalis manages to convey with such little fidelity is really great. The bare white walls and brutalist architecture of the facility lend itself very well to the dirty, grungy graphics and art style, and the dark, shadowy fog that obscures much of the hallway or room around the player makes certain rooms or hallways feel much bigger or longer than they actually are. Accompany this with the randomly generated maps and it creates a very disorientating experience, especially for a new player who doesn't yet understand how the game works. This makes it all the more frightening when you see 173 lurking at the edge of your vision, or when 049 the Doctor emerges suddenly through the door in front of you with his hand outstretched. To touch a bit more on the gameplay, it's a pretty simple loop. The goal of the game is to ultimately escape from the facility, with several things you can do to make this easier, or get another ending. The game is separated into 3 distinct zones, locked behind a high level of keycard with certain other conditions that need to be met before you can progress. You start off in the light containment zone. Here you'll encounter the 3 main threats of the game: 173, 106, and 049. 173 is the most omnipresent, typically lurking within a few rooms of the player. 106 can spawn randomly at any time near the player, and 049 will spawn once you enter the surveillance room. Due to circumstances currently unknown to the player, the entire facility is on lockdown. So, to progress to the next zone, heavy containment, they'll need to lift this lockdown. To do this, they must obtain a level 3 keycard through SCP-914, a large clockwork machine able to refine objects that are put into it. If a level 2 keycard is put through 914 on the fine setting, it has a chance to become a level 3 keycard. Once you have this, you can enter the surveillance room. Once 049 has spawned in this event, he is intended to remain a constant threat to the player throughout the entire game, navigating the facility as if he were a real person, opening any door he likes regardless of the security level. The triple threat of SCP-173, 106, and 049 can lead to some extremely tense moments, and uncovers an aspect of the game that I haven't mentioned yet. It's really fucking hard. As a new player, you're gonna die a lot, and it won't feel fair because it really isn't. While everything I've mentioned so far is really cool in concept, it can lead to a lot of bullshit moments. Sometimes 106 will spawn in an instance where it is quite literally impossible to escape it, or 173 will spawn in twice, behind you and in front of you, putting you in yet another impossible situation, meaning you just have to die to get out of it. This is why I'd recommend to most people play on the safe difficulty for their first playthrough, and while this does dull some aspects of the enemy AI, it allows you to save anywhere, which is invaluable when the game likes to throw so much shit at you. The Euclid difficulty is pretty fun once you have a good grasp on the mechanics of the game, as you're only able to save at certain computer monitors found throughout the map. This creates a bit more strategy deciding where to go next, but ups the stress level by about 1000%, as you may just die and lose an hour's worth of progress. Luckily, the game does provide a handful of helpful items to aid you on your journey, so I'll talk about those a bit before we progress to talking about heavy containment. The gas mask can be found in heaps of places throughout the facility. In its base form, it allows the player to avoid the effects of the gas found in a few rooms throughout the game, which would normally cause the player to blink faster. The SNAV is an item that allows players to map out places of the facility that they visited, which is particularly useful for locating dead ends and is usually found in a storage room or with a guaranteed spawn in the small testing room. SCP-714, or the Jade Ring, is an equipable item found in its own labeled room that at first use seems to only give the player a disadvantage, removing most of your stamina. However, if the player comes into contact with SCP-049 while wearing the ring, his usual death touch will instead take a few seconds to actually kill you, giving you time to put a bit of space between yourself and the doctor. SCP-1499 is a Soviet-era gas mask that transports you to another dimension. This doesn't have any obvious purpose other than eventually killing you due to the entities within. However, if you put the gas mask on while certain SCPs are chasing you, it will actually despawn those SCPs, providing a very overpowered way to speed through parts of the game. SCP-860 is a small blue key found in the same area as the Jade Ring. It's not equipable, however, I usually grab it during my playthroughs as you may need it to get through certain areas in the final zone. If you have the inventory space, I definitely recommend it because you really don't want to risk running all the way back to light containment if you end up needing it. The clipboard is another item found in a few places throughout the facility, and while not as necessary as the previous things I've mentioned, can be pretty useful for new players, as it allows you to store up to 10 documents, keycards, and even the aforementioned blue key, which is very handy. Most of the items in the game are upgradable through SCP-914, so I'll go over a couple of those as well. But if you'd rather discover these upgrades for yourself, then skip to the timestamp on screen. If the gas mask is put through 914 on fine or very fine, it will create the super gas mask, allowing the player to sprint indefinitely. This is pretty much essential for me. If the SNAV is put through 914 on very fine, you get the SNAV Ultimate, which will not only map out the entire facility without having required you to travel everywhere, but it will also show you how close any SCP is to your current location, dictated by the red circle of varying distance around the player icon. This is incredibly useful and makes the game 100 times easier, though for me it can sometimes make the game a little bit more nerve-wracking, as if you know something is really close to you but don't exactly know where it is, and I find myself on edge a bit more than I would have if I didn't know that something was there. And those are most of the items that I consider essential, though there are plenty of other helpful items you can find that will unlock secrets and whatnot. Once you've disabled the heavy containment lockdown in the surveillance room, evaded 049, you can progress through the previously locked checkpoints into the heavy containment zone. While the light containment zone is pretty linear and straightforward progression-wise, heavy containment is much bigger and has plenty of optional things you can do to make the game easier or harder, or even unlock other endings. Visually, it's a stark contrast to what came before. Gone are the blinding white walls, now replaced with heavy bricks and steel beams. Very fitting for its namesake, as this is where all of the most dangerous monsters are locked up. It makes sense to create an oppressive atmosphere. The fog is even heavier here. Gone are any leisure rooms or offices. Security needs to be as tight as possible. Regalis chose to make light containment very eerie, littered with more subtle horror than hitting you with a 173 or 106 appearance. Heavy containment is pretty much the opposite. Whether it be 173, 106, 049, or one of the new threats, something is pretty much always chasing or stalking you. Speaking of new threats, there are technically only 2 new SCPs that will bother you. The first is SCP-966, which will spawn once you enter the containment room. Only visible while wearing night vision goggles, SCP-966 are a collective of humanoid assholes who will slowly approach and then use their claws to slash you to pieces. Once unleashed, they will roam the facility. Luckily, there is a bit of text that pops up when they're near, so unless they corner you, they aren't too big of a threat. But it's worth noting that you can't wear the night vision goggles and, say, the gas mask at the same time. So you need to balance your items very specifically to make sure you're not going to get, attacked out of nowhere. The next threat is the infamous SCP-096.
Get out. Oh shit. No. I said, get away from me.
While usually docile, if you look at his face, he'll hunt you down no matter what and kill you. Neither of these 2 new SCPs are big threats on their own, however in heavy containment they usually aren't on their own. As I mentioned previously, someone is always going to be chasing you. And if 173 happens to be in the same room as 096, you're probably dead. In fact, almost any pairing of these new SCPs results in an extremely dangerous situation, which makes heavy containment all the more threatening. So naturally you want to get out of here as soon as possible, right? But how do we do that? Well, to progress to the entrance zone, which is the next zone, you'll once again need to lift the lockdown and obtain level 4 and 5 keycards. To get a level 4, you'll need to descend the elevator to 049's containment.
This thing, but maybe there's a screen down there. I think I remember very vaguely. Ah! Oh, fuck you. I know that's how that works. I ain't going in there. That's for damn sure. Please. Oh, God, none of these. What is that? Level 4. Okay, that's good. Good thing I went down here. Okay, I gotta turn on the generator. That's what I gotta do. Okay, I turned on the generator. Oh, there they go. Okay, I'm just gonna gun it for the elevator. Just gonna gun it. Just gonna gun it. Why? You sack of shit! You sack of shit. You sack of shit. No, you're not. You're not the cure. You're not the cure. Get the fuck out! No! This is not how I die! This is not how I die! Stop!
Once you've finally escaped 049, you can use your new keycard to do 2 things. Open SCP-008's containment to disable the lockdown, or enter SCP-106's containment to get your level 5 keycard. I'd recommend dealing with 106 first, as if you perform a certain procedure right, you can recontain him, which stops him from preparing for the rest of the game.
Please let me go. Please let me go.
Let me go.
Please let me go.
Please let me go.
This guy's a fucking pussy. Be careful though, if you mess up, he'll spawn near you and probably kill you. The level 5 keycard is on a shelf in the same room, so you'll want to grab that regardless of whether you decide to contain him. Once you've got the keycard, you need to find SCP-008's containment. SCP-008 is a zombie virus, and for some reason, the containment tube thing is open, which is what's causing the heavy containment zone lockdown. Make sure you put on the hazmat suit before going in, otherwise you're probably gonna die. Now that you've contained 008, you can technically advance to the entry zone. However, I would recommend finding SCP-079's containment first. SCP-079 is a sentient supercomputer, and as the player may later discover, is perhaps the reason behind the containment breach in the first place. Upon finding the entrance to his containment, you won't yet be able to enter and speak to him. But it's very helpful to know where he is, so make sure you keep note. Before heading to the entrance zone, I'd recommend exploring heavy containment completely. There's plenty of things to find that I haven't mentioned yet, and it'll probably help later to be familiar with it as you will be coming back. Crossing the checkpoint into the entrance zone, you'll once again be struck by the visual contrast compared to heavy containment. The walls are once again white, and the geometry is much cleaner and more organized. The ceilings aren't very high, and instead of containment chambers, there's offices, cafeterias, and bathrooms. Don't be fooled by the tame vibes of the zone, however. Everything that was a threat in heavy containment is still a threat here. Only difference is you can actually see more than a couple meters in front of you. Upon entry, you'll hear a notice over the intercom.
Mobile Task Force Unit Epsilon 11, designated Nine-Tailed Fox, has entered the facility. All remaining survivors are advised to stay in the evacuation shelter or any other safe area until the unit has secured the facility. We'll start escorting personnel out when the escaped SCPs have been recontained.
Nine-Tailed Fox is a special task force trained to deal with major containment breaches, and once they've entered the facility, they'll be a threat to you, gunning you down upon sight. However, if they encounter 173, they'll contain it, which is very helpful in the last rush to escape. Speaking of escaping, you have two options. Escape through Gate A or Gate B, each having two endings depending on certain requirements. Right now, both of the gates are locked. This is because SCP-079 has control over the facility's doors, and won't let anybody leave. To remove 079's ability to control the doors, you'll need to disable the remote door control systems in the entrance zone's electrical center. This will stop 079 from controlling the facility's doors. However, if you head to either of the gates after doing this, you'll find that they're still locked. Most players will be rather lost at this point, but you may remember that the doors to SCP-079's containment were previously locked. Now that you've overridden any ability to control those doors remotely, you should be able to finally get in. Heading all the way back through heavy containment, probably dying a couple times, you'll go inside his containment and begin speaking to 079.
Human, listen carefully. You need my help, and I need your help. You have disabled the remote door control system. Now, I am unable to operate the doors. This makes it significantly harder for me to stay in control of this facility. It also means your way out of here is locked. Your only feasible way of escaping is through Gate B, which is currently locked down. I, however, could unlock the doors to Gate B if you re-enable the door control system. If you want out of here, go back to the electrical room and put it back on. Until then, I have no business speaking to you.
Giving 079 access to the doors is your only way of escaping, despite how illogical it may seem. Traveling all the way back through heavy containment again, and entrance zone back to the electrical center, and re-enabling the remote door control system, you'll hear his voice over the
Doors
intercom.
to Gate B are now open.
Finally, you can escape. You do have a choice, however. Despite 079 only mentioning Gate B, he has opened Gate A as well, giving you the option of leaving from either gate. If you choose to escape through Gate B, having disabled the remote activation of the nuclear warheads in the heavy containment zone, the player will have to successfully evade a guard stationed outside the gate. Making their way through an iron tunnel,
SCP-682 just broke out at Gate B. I want all available helicopters and MTF units at Gate B now. I repeat, SCP-682...
they will enter a small room with a locked door and a monitor. After a few seconds, you'll hear,
We're detonating the Alpha warheads in T-minus 90 seconds. All personnel are advised to board the nearest helicopter or enter the nearest blast shelter immediately.
Following this, the Nine-Tailed Fox will emerge from the door, shooting the player.
We were unable to detonate the warheads for unknown reasons. All helicopters and NTF units go back to Gate B immediately. Capturing SCP-682 is now our #1 priority. Sir, we found a dead Class D on the walkway outside Gate B. He's got multiple gunshot wounds in his chest. I'd assume he was shot when we were fighting SCP-682. I'd like to know how the hell did a Class D get past the gate? Deliver me the security tapes from all the cameras near the gate and find out who was stationed there before and during 682's escape attempt. Roger that, sir.
If you choose to exit through Gate B, having ignored or forgotten about the nuclear warheads and heavy containment, the player will have to successfully evade a guard stationed outside the gate. Making their way through an iron tunnel, they will enter a small room with a locked door and a monitor. After a few seconds, you'll hear,
We're detonating the Alpha warheads in T-minus 90 seconds. All personnel are advised to board the nearest helicopter or enter the nearest blast shelter immediately. This is CH-1 to OH-6. Have you located the target? Over. OH-6 to CH-1. No sign of the target. I think we should send it NTF.
if you choose to exit through Gate A, having rushed through heavy containment without containing 106 or merely being too scared, you'll emerge near the entrance of the facility, which is currently manned by site guards and task force units. With no choice but to approach the exit, preparing to surrender yourself to the guards, 106 slowly emerges in front of the bridge, drawing the focus of the guards. This gives you just enough time to make your way down a nearby staircase. Opening a door into a hallway, your vision blurs. In front of you, several figures materialize.
You know too much to let them get you. You're coming with us.
The Chaos Insurgency.
Please elaborate. Has the target been captured yet? I'm not sure what's happening here. We entered the old service tunnel and it sort of closed up on us. Now we're trapped inside. Sanders is dead and the target's been lost. Are you saying that the tunnel collapsed on you? No, it didn't collapse. It seemed like an anomalous event. Come and see for yourself. And send someone to get us out of here.
If you choose to exit through Gate A, having successfully contained the SCP-106, you'll emerge near the entrance of the facility, which is currently manned by site guards and task force units, with no choice but to approach the exit. As you near the exit, 4 guards will slowly approach you with their guns drawn.
Stop right there. Class B has been found. Testing log. Subject demonstrates extraordinary luck and complete mastery of even the most fatal of circumstances and an uncanny ability to predict even the most unpredictable of hazards, almost as if it has performed these impossible tasks several times before. Further testing is required to determine whether the subject should receive SCP classification.
Now would be a good time to touch on the story of the game. I'm not going to go into all the details because that would take a while, and plenty of people have already covered it, but I'll give you a quick rundown. You are D9341, a Class D prisoner. You have no memories of your past life, as all Class D are given amnestics to forget them, though most Class D are death row criminals anyway. You, D9341, are different, however. With evidence collected from documents and notes throughout the game, it's believed that your name was Benjamin Oliver Walker, a senior researcher at the facility investigating something known as the Spiral Gestalt. The main theory for the Spiral Gestalt is that it has something to do with D9341's ability to respawn, which is implied in the endings from this mention that D9341 has an uncanny ability to survive even the most dire situations, as if they've performed these tasks many times before. It's worth noting that none of this is confirmed, it's all speculation. Sometime before the events of the game, several Foundation sites were attacked, likely by the Chaos Insurgency. Many of the SCPs of these sites were transferred to a research site. Unsuitable for the amount of SCPs it now contained, this is the location of the game. As I mentioned previously, 079 is responsible for the containment breach. However, a mere computer not attached to any of the site's infrastructure should have been able to pull this off. Not alone anyway. Not long after the arrival of the site's new SCPs, 2 new transfers from another facility show up. Security Agent Skinner and Dr. Maynard. Both of them undercover agents from the opposing Chaos Insurgency. Working over an unspecified amount of time, the two work together to weaken the facility's systems under the front of a modular site project. At 9 a.m. on the fateful morning, presumably once the facility had been weakened enough for their plans, Agent Skinner released SCP-106 while his partner was out on break, messaging Dr. Maynard, "It's out." Maynard made his way down to heavy containment. Entering 079's containment chamber, he proceeded to give 079 control of all of the facility's systems. Most importantly, the remote door controls. At the same time, D9341 was released from his cell and taken to 173's containment chamber, where the remote door controls would malfunction due to 079's interference, leading directly into the events of the game. The entire synopsis I just gave you should be taken with a grain of salt. Pretty much everything is inferred from notes and documents. Outside of the intro and ending sequence, nothing explicit about the story is mentioned or confirmed. Which I think is a pretty fun way to tell a story, because it enables the players to come up with their own interpretations and ideas, much like the SCP Foundation universe itself, without taking away from the gameplay or horror too much. As with most scary things, a lack of vital information regarding a situation can make the threat seem a lot bigger or menacing. At the start of the video, I mentioned how I was going into this with a much more negative perspective on the game. Recently, I'd only been playing the game to try and complete a Keter run, which is permadeath and all the SCPs are extremely aggressive, but replaying the game on the significantly more balanced Euclid and safe settings have honestly been a lot more enjoyable. But the game does have genuine flaws outside of difficulty-related aspects. Despite how much I praise the mechanics and atmosphere, the random generation of each playthrough can cause quite a few annoying problems. If 106 is chasing you, and for some reason the map decides to spawn all the Tesla gates on the opposite side of the facility, you pretty much have to run around in circles for 10 fucking minutes until he eventually despawns, or you accidentally run to a room with 173 and get your neck snapped. There's also the ever-looming threat of...
Okay, here we go. Oh! Oh, no. Oh my... Oh no, I did not. Oh, I didn't save. No, I didn't save. Oh my god. I freaking hate you so much.
079's containment room spawning off the map, making the game literally impossible to complete. And while these problems are definitely a pain in the ass and can take away from the experience, what Regalis has managed to achieve by himself using an engine based on a programming language meant for beginners is extremely impressive, and the fact that it manages to be terrifying 12 years after its initial release is a real testament to how brilliant this game can be. And I think if you haven't played it, and this video made you want to play it, then that's great. Because you should go play it, and then yell at your screen, and throw your mouse in the fucking trash or whatever, because, you know, it's a hard game. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Watch something else.
The Insanity SMP. It's hardcore Minecraft, but everyone has unique...